meeting to order. This is the public hearing, and I see no one here from the public. That's the special board. Public hearings at 6 o'clock. There's one right here. Okay. We have a presentation, though.
Yes, we have a presentation for the public hearing based on our proposed fiscal year 2016 budget.
Can I ask one question? Because I didn't make this official. Was this advertised in the...
Yes, it was.
Because I don't read that right, so I don't know.
We did advertise 10 days in
10 days in advance.
in the newspaper and in our typical sites.
And posted.
And posted.
Yeah.
Can you open it up? What's that?
Can we turn that
We'll
further?
go to sleep, we turn those down.
Yeah, that's okay, we can see that.
Okay.
Okay, recommended rate increase, 3.25% based on our budget. The budget is based on the goals of our strategic plan, which was just updated in December. So I do want to show how we tied our budget into the strategic plan. First of all, our mission and vision statements, always helpful to review, especially for the public, is to provide the highest quality water to all of our customers well into the future. And our vision is to be a model regional water utility, recognized for customer focus, water quality, and system reliability. These were our planning goals. They were upgraded from our original strategic plan of a couple of years ago. Again, maintaining a secure source of high-quality water, which we've been working on. We developed capital plans for infrastructure needs, improving our management systems, especially our data management and information management. Ensuring financial stability by planning out what we need for infrastructure improvements, capital expenses, our reserve funds, and of course then what resulting rate increases would be required. And with the idea of keeping rate increases to a minimum for the long term. And last but not least, of course, is improving customer relations. So taking these a little bit out of order, I just wanted to get into our infrastructure needs. We did do a 20-year capital plan. We revised recently a 5-year capital plan, which now results in our capital plan for next year, looking at a number of improvements throughout the distribution system, mains, instrumentation, pump stations, meter systems, tanks, and system pressures, and also system flows for fire flow purposes. Just a summary of our 5-year capital plan in various categories. As you can see, we've been allocating a significant amount of funds for our capital improvements in the system, including our water supply, pipeline to Pawtucket. These are improvements for upgrading the pressures in the Bristol Warren system. So just want to mention, first of all, what we've done in this previous year. The Pawtucket pipeline, as everyone knows, the board determined to secure a better high-quality supply from the Pawtucket Water Supply Board. We joined East Providence in doing a study for running a pipeline to that system. Then we went to the legislature and requested funds, matching funds through the state program. Unfortunately, that did not move forward last year. But we did do a number of water main improvement projects that were very successful. Cleaning and lining, we actually did an innovative new type of structural liner, which worked out very well and will be useful in the future for problem areas. And of course, the main extension in Papa Squash. Cleaning and lining has a considerable effect on flows through the pipe. It takes out all the resistance from the iron deposits and, of course, the water quality issues. This year we had also renovated the Anamon Dam, which is about 80% complete at this point. We did a full system leak detection survey, which saved us a considerable amount of money. And we did purchase equipment to do in-house leak detection, which is ongoing. And we are finding a number of small leaks in the system. And we're in the process of installing a instrumentation system for data management and control of operations, pump stations, tanks, and flows throughout the system. Two of our other goals, number 3 and 5, I put together just because they are very interrelated, which is our new management systems, our MIS systems, and for customer relations. Our new computer system for customer service provides a lot more detail, a lot more information. We also have a customer portal, which now provides more information to the customer where they can look up information themselves. We've redone our financial package using QuickBooks, which ties more readily into our work order system, which we just set up for our field work. So we've had a lot of changes in the system, and a lot of new programs which have helped our efficiency significantly. This is our budget, proposed budget for fiscal year 2016. Now our fiscal year begins in March of the year, so although it's predominantly in 2015, the fiscal year ends in February of 2016. This was our current budget. This is what we're looking at going forward. There are 4 major areas of expense. We have our operations and maintenance, debt service expense, our cash capital expense, and our reserves, which results in a required revenue of approximately $12.5 million. So this year's budget includes a number of projects, upgrading our pump stations. We're working on installing a trihalometane removal system in the Barrington tank, looking at possible removal of a couple of our dams, which would help cut our maintenance expenses and our responsibility for one of the dams in Massachusetts. We're instituting a number of programs in operations, hydrants, valves, and meter programs, routine maintenance management programs, tied into our GIS and asset management information, so we're continuing to populate that system and make it more usable. We're also going to be investigating a 3-tier rate design this coming year. As far as our source of supply, we have not given up on the Pawtucket pipeline. At this point in time, East Providence, who is our partner in the project, has been unwilling to forward funds for essentially the entire pipeline project. We are attempting to work with them to install just the main connection between the emergency pump station and their tank, which would provide flow in both directions for both systems and would connect the 2 cross-bay pipelines, both East Providence and the Bristol County pipeline, which provides significant redundancy for the water main projects for this year. We've got some work in Warren we're going to be doing. We're going to clean and line Child Street, which is from our location here going out to our border with Swansea. Looking at main replacement on Market Street. Closing up some dead ends at the other end of Child Street as well, so we can look at an emergency connection with Swansea. Doing some work in various locations in Bristol, and we actually are going to do some more main replacement on some smaller streets in Barrington. Another part of the budget was reserves. The strategic plan actually outlined setting up reserve funds to stabilize our finances going into the future, especially with an infrastructure reserve fund, which is actually mandated by the state. But that is to specifically to balance out payments in the future with bonds so that we can limit the amount of rate increases we'll need going forward. We're also looking to set up stability reserves for a 30-day operating period, which will significantly help our bond costs, and setting up our OPEB reserves for these post-retirement benefits. So it's actually required, but will help us in the long run and significantly, again, improves our bond ratings. This is a 5-year plan for funding these reserves, so we're not doing it all at once. We just started this year, as a matter of fact, so we're trying to move forward on building those reserves. Then there's the O&M operations and maintenance budget. It's an overall increase of 1.6%. Some of the projects we're doing that are included in the budget is continuing the customer service system improvements, improving the customer portal, and actually replacing our website with something a little more user-friendly. We've got the programs in operations maintenance, hydrants, valves, flushing programs, operation efficiency programs, which are really changing the way we do work, and it's really significantly making a difference in our operations department. Just want to mention some of the savings we've seen. Salary and wages for our operations group is actually decreased because of the new operators we've hired. They've replaced retirees at a lower wage rate, so we've actually seen a decrease. We have new employees since 2012 are not in our defined benefit program, pension program. They're now in a 457B, which actually lowers our liabilities in the long term for our pensions. Our health insurance, actually we saved quite a bit of money on health insurance. It did go up a bit, but due to the new employees who are younger and the changes we made in the retirees' expenses, we did save a considerable amount of money. Customer service, our new computer system's already paying dividends. We were able to go out with a new printing and mailing of bills with a new company that's actually considerably reduced our costs because now we can standardize how we do the bills and how they're transmitted. We did see some increased expenses. Although our annual maintenance fees, I just wanted to mention this, there's maintenance fees for running these computer program systems. They were significantly offset by savings on the consultant fees that we used to pay for the old system. We're seeing a lot of benefits with the new system. We did have some significant increases in the transmission main clearing project because we need to start working on our transmission main from East Providence to Barrington that has not been cleared in quite a few years. We've got trees and heavy brush that have to be removed. And we did have some existing in our previous budget for the dams. Where we saw some increased costs, we're doing more laboratory analysis, and some of the tools and equipment we're purchasing to do some of the new programs and operations. And I want to mention too, the board determined to go with a lower rate of return on the pension, so that means we have to make a little more of a contribution this year, rather than the one that was recommended. But that's to be safe in the long run.
But it's less than last year when we had a 6.0. So
Pardon?
Last
Yes.
year we had a 6.0, so we've raised the assumption from 6.0 to 6.2.
6.25, yes.
A question on the lab analysis, we're not doing it internally.
No.
Okay.
For those that might not know, will you explain what the 6.25 represents? It represents a return, an expected return.
That's the expected return we would receive for income on the pension, so to speak. It was rated, I believe, at 7.8%. The Finance Committee took a look at our previous 10-year average, decided that we were safer and more conservative with a 6.2.
He actually came in with a recommendation of 7.5.
7.5.
Yeah. And we looked at a 10-year average, which was 6.14, and we rounded up to 6.25. And that's the rationale.
And with the way things are going right now, that looks like a good idea. Just some other programs that are included in this budget. Continuing to refine our management system programs. We're looking at doing studies for a new rate structure. It will be revenue neutral. It would just be a different structure of the rate, going from a 5-tier to a 3-tier. We're going to be investigating monthly billing. There's a number of customers that have been asking for that, and it would make things a little bit easier in the long run. Unfortunately, we need to change out some of our meters before we get to that point. We're looking at expanding the customer portal functions and, as I mentioned earlier, designing a new website. Unfortunately, we're still seeing this trend of decreasing consumptions. This has also been built into our budget with about a 1.5% increase for next year. At some point, we figure we got to hit bottom. It's just, unfortunately, it's still continuing.
But that's happening everywhere, right? That's not just us.
That's happening everywhere.
Combination of manufacturing going away and increasing population.
Exactly. A lot of manufacturing going away.
Overflow toilets, all kinds of
And
consequences.
conservation. And unfortunately, what's happening is the industry used to support a lot of the water rates in the systems, and it's gradually getting transferred over to the residential rates, which doesn't help the situation. This is just a chart I made up. This is based on consumptions reported to the Water Resource Board by the various utilities. This was the average customer bill based on the average consumption. Just wanted to show that Bristol County Water is not looking too badly when you start looking at other water systems. And as we move forward, based on the plans we've put in for our financial plans going out 10 years, we don't see any significant increases compared to other systems, which are going to have to do more significant increases. Based on our rate study recommendations, you remember seeing this chart, where this was what was recommended over the next 5 years for rate increases. This is actually what we did. We reduced it from the 12 to 11, which actually helped us set us up for the next few years. We did have to do the 4% last year, but this year instead of 4, we're looking at 3.25, and going forward, again, we're looking at reduced rate increases due to some of the efficiencies we put into place in the last year. This is just, again, the rate structure. This is the way we're structured now. The more water you use, most people get caught up in this first tier. This was for large consumers. It starts dropping down. So it's an overall rate for industry, which we have very little industry anymore. So we're looking at more going just to a straight tier, 3-tier rate with a very low starting rate. This would affect all our customers, but especially those that don't use that much water, because they may not get into these upper tiers, which is the opposite situation now. So, winding up, due to the strategic plan that the board put in place several years ago and has been updating annually, it's really led to the creation of a sound financial plan for management, operation, and maintenance, reinvestment in the infrastructure of the CWA water system well into the future.
Just a note on our last comment, and Alan can attest to this, going back 6, 7, 8 years ago, when the economy across the country was in the toilet, the board at that time did the bare minimum to keep things flowing so there wouldn't be an impact on the rate case. There was a time where we were down 4 employees, we went from 36 to 32, and people doubled up doing jobs. So the board at that time was very cognizant of the fact that a substantial rate increase would mean on the average person. But we're past that now, so the proposed rate increase of less than 3.5 is due. The system over the last 6 or 7 years, because we didn't actively upgrade it. It's time to do that. So I'm very comfortable with the rate increase that is being proposed by Ken and staff. Long overdue, but very happy with the presentation. If you could give me, please, a copy of what you put up on the board.
Sure.
All minutes for information purposes, so I can show my get back in town this morning. I appreciate it.
Yes.
Give it to me.
Sure. Yes.
Is actually.
Yeah.
Email?
Email, hard copy, yes.
Okay. No problem.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You're the only, from the
You're
public,
the only public person here. I can see
here
that.
as a public or an official capacity, any special, you're free to make comments, public hearing. We just are
Just here to see the
Process of-
presentation.
process a 20-minute presentation of why we're asking for the 3.25% increase.
Well, I saw the previous presentation of your 10-year plan, your 5-year plan out to 2018. I think my only question would be is, going forward to 2023, you did a very good job with the infrastructure plan that you set in your policy, along with the efficiencies. With the bond, those certain bonds that are going to fall off in 2018, are those already put in place for him? Because people, I guess what I'm hearing is, when will the increases end? So you're very transparent, going forward to 2018 with these minimal increases. So going forward, part of the 10-year plan up to 2023, what should the public anticipate other than emergencies that happen going forward? Will those bonds falling off make it even more minimal, be applied for the infrastructure improvements that are needed going past 2018? Did that make sense to anybody?
No, I think your question is correct, and I suspect Pam can answer, but I'll try. The bonds that we have just sold, we're paying only the interest. We know there's a big fall off, so we're only paying the interest. We'll then pick up, when those are finished, we will then pick up with paying the principal. So we're not going to see a great decrease in our debt service, because we're filling in behind it. And the way we've done it right now is we've made arrangements for the bonds only to pay the interest and not pay the principal until that time. So we're cutting back and smooth that. There's not going to be any sudden increase. It's trying to be smooth with all of it.
I'm going to show you, these are the summary for the next 5-year capital plan. So you can see where we have some significant projects.
Yeah.
The Bristol pressure project is the major one, actually.
That's about 2,900.
This one's the Pawtucket
Most of
Light
it.
Line is only about 5 million. It's already been figured in. The Bristol project's more about 10 million.
Yeah, it was like 10 to 11 million, right?
Yeah. Whereas, I don't know if you saw the one with this is what we were originally looking at based on our study from our rate consultant. This is where we are now. It's actually come down because of the efficiencies we've been able to put into the system. But we don't foresee any major increases because of the bonds dropping off and how we're planning the bonds for the future, and putting infrastructure reserves in place that will actually help pay the difference between the bond funds that we'll need in the future and cash projects. So we'll start filling in the debt service, so our debt service stays below a certain level. Because we're going to be doing bonds every 2 years
Yeah.
to maintain the system.
I think you're doing very good, like I said, with the transparency. If you could almost publicly, minimize this portfolio to explain to the public, because you're always going to get that feedback of 3.25 is too much. But if you put it in perspective of, you already took into consideration with this rate study of the fall off of customers going forward on a 10-year plan. We have everything in place, so it justifies that. And I think once you can project justifying it in a public way, I think it's good on both sides.
Well,
That's
this
just
is being
suggestion.
recorded. This is being recorded, so all of our meetings are on the website, and it will be shown to everyone. And we will also then, there'll be a monthly report that will go out to the 3 towns, the councils. So we will be following up. Good point you make. We'll follow it up with a summary comment. Of course, the board, once we close the hearing, the board has to act on this. Once we make a final decision on that, we'll have a summary press release.
Will this public hearing be on our
cable,
Yes, yeah, that's why we're recording it
pretty
now.
much more public than that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Seeing that the Phoenix doesn't see fit to come to a public hearing.
Whatever. Thank you for your input.
No, thank you.
Any other comment the board wants to make?
Yeah, if I can just comment on Frank's comment. We had a significant rate increase, was it 2009 or 9%?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay. And in any, I think it's in 2007, so in any rate increase that we had prior to Pam coming on board, we really had nothing to show for it. We didn't do much. We increased the rate because the water consumption was going down. That basically was it. We didn't have a maintenance program. We didn't do much, and that's true. So we had the big bump 2 years ago. Last year was 4, going forward 3.25 to 3.5, and work has been done and will continue to be done, which is what everybody can see, what they're paying for. A lot of it's underground, so you don't see it, but when you turn on that faucet day after day, year after year, you're glad.
And there was, like I said, there was a time there, there was a time frame. Now, that's it, we just,
Cut way back.
we cut way back.
You're correct.
And now, as the economy has improved, Pam, staff, and the board has to give it some credit for establishing a strategic plan that's very transparent. It's out there telling you, 6 years ago, we just kept things running so
Right.
the economy got better, and now we're going forward on not frivolous things, stuff that we need to make us a top-notch utility and to take us into the future.
Let's move forward then, if we have no other public comment, but,
Can I do it later? Or?
yeah, because we're going to now discuss. We're going to now, we'll close the public hearing officially at 6:26, and we'll now open our special board meeting, which was scheduled no earlier than 6:15. We weren't sure how long the public hearing would last. So we're within the time period of that. And so now we're in the special board meeting. We call that to order. The second item on there is public input. Would you like to make another statement? Okay, we'll move forward now. We are dealing with the proposed 3.25% water rate increase.
I'm going to talk for about 3 minutes, which is more than I usually talk for, and I apologize in advance. I'm a little bit on unfamiliar ground. Usually, when I'm reviewing a budget, and you can ask the Barrington schools, I am there to tell them what they're doing wrong, and I cannot do that today because I have to tell you, having gone through the numbers and asked copious questions, I found an organization that certainly has some legacy costs, but has done a whole lot of things the right way. Having said that, I'm going to personally recommend a slightly lower increase, and I will give my rationale why. Our operating and management increase was 1.6%, and the rest is basically designated towards reserves. I fully believe in reserves. Reserves are a good idea. How much to be put in reserve is the question. There are some things that the management have done which are paying benefits now and will pay even bigger benefits in the future. Specifically in the contract, that the new hires and the savings that Pam alluded to in the presentation and the reduction in the pension costs are going to increase each year. We have an older workforce. They're going to retire. They're going to be replaced by employees who will cost less, and there will be ongoing savings each year because of that. This is all because of good management. Again, I'm on unfamiliar ground here. Usually I'm out there saying what people are doing wrong. And I have to tell you, my number that I'm going to suggest is a good number, and the number that they suggested is a good number. And as a board, to have an option is a good thing. It is not, I am not here in any way to criticize anything that was done. To the contrary, there is so little that I could question, and the questions I have are not of whether or not it was correct. It was differences of opinion. And that is, it speaks really well to the work that management and finance have done. I believe that a 1.625 for reserves, given the fact that operations will likely continue not to go up because of the hiring situation, is stronger than we need to be. Not that it's wrong, it's stronger than we need to be. I would recommend a 10% reduction in the increase, going from 3.25 to 2.95, which would represent $36,000 less, correct me if I'm wrong, approximately $36,000 less in money put into the reserves. The reason I'm suggesting it, because reserves are a good use for the money, that's not my point. There's been a lot of press about utilities going up at dramatic rates, and the 3.25, as our audience said, there will be people who will think that it is too high, and psychologically, to come in under 3% can make a difference to people. $36,000 isn't going to affect the reserves so dramatically that we won't be able to do what we need to do. That is my opinion. I am not married to this. I am going to, if I have an opportunity, I'll make the motion. It can be seconded. But I want to reiterate, I can't tell you how pleasantly surprised I've been from what I was told by my town council that I was going to find. And it has been really nice to go through a set of books, as I did with Mark at the finance meeting, and at the end be able to say, good job. And I did, and I meant it. I have a difference of opinion, that's all it is. So that's where I am. Feel free.
I guess the question is to staff is what is $36,000 less due to your projection? Is it so? Does it screw you up real bad?
No, it's not onerous. It's similar to putting into a 401k. The more you put in now, the more returns you'll get in the end. But it's for $36,000, it's something we can make up with over the long run. Again, we had a 5-year plan for building those reserves, so we don't need to put everything in, or as I say, the recommended amount was so much per year, and we increased it a bit every year to get to the 5-year program. So whatever we don't put in this year, we may want to try to make up later on.
So you gave the pipe now or later. I understand what Joel was saying. I also understand that you're talking on an average bill of a little over $5 million for customer, residential customers. It's what, $17, $18 a year more or quarter?
17 per year.
17 per year. I'm a part-time director. I get a lot of time left, like we all do. I don't want to second guess your figures. But I want an honest answer from you. Is $36,000 going to mess up this organization?
No.
It is. I don't want to. Maybe I should leave it like that. But
Quit while you're ahead.
Yeah, quit while I'm ahead. And I don't want to come back next year and say because we didn't do this, we have to do that. And I just don't want to, I'll compromise and, cut it by 18,000 and bring, I just don't want to sit here next year. Like all of us agree, I'm not uncomfortable with the 3.25% increase. I know where it's going. We've been up front with everyone what we're doing. Again, I just don't want to sit here next year and say, gosh, I wish we didn't cut that by that much money.
Ray, you had a comment?
Well, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, well, understand what Joel's point is that he's making, but because of the situation we have financially right now, we can't predict in the future if we're going to have any kind of return for those investments. The amount of money that we're talking about only represents about 75 cents per consumer per year.
It is a psychological, as I
And is this playing with fire to cut ourselves that closely?
It isn't that close. It is, it's still 180 to, in the second year, the reserves went from 200,000 to 455. So cutting 36 means that we're going from 200,000 to 419. It's still significantly adding to the reserves. It is not playing with fire. We never suggest that. I don't want to put any organization into a situation where, gee, I wish we had taken it. I'm doing this advisedly. I'm making the suggestion because we do have a public perception issue. It can go a long way. It is a minuscule amount of money per person. You're absolutely correct. It isn't going to destroy the organization. You're absolutely correct. But a 2.95 versus a 3.25 with such a small cost and still increasing reserves significantly, that's my position.
Yes, sir.
My question kind of comes from a different direction, and I don't want to put Mark on a hot seat here for this, but I'm looking at it, the fact that the budget was based on projections, right? We worked on the first 8 months, actually, okay? And I guess my question is, I reviewed some of the numbers again after we had the financial meeting, and there were a couple of two-item areas that it looked like the actuals for that 8-month period were projecting out to be lower than 2015 budget. And I was just wondering if, in the last 4 months, if you look at these two items, does it look like that it's going to be costing us less in these two categories? I'll give you an example. And I'm saying this because I'm hoping this is going to be like a savings as far as projecting our expenses, where we could justify what Joel was saying. There was one area, professional fees as an example. For the first eight months, it cost like $81,500. If you project that out for the 12-month period, it only comes to estimated about $122,000. But yet, we're doing a budget of $245. So I'm wondering if it's like $100,000 for the last 4 months. Is that a good number? Are we working with a good number?
We worked a long time on that. One of the reasons, I don't remember who asked, but on professional services include about 5 categories, including consulting engineers, attorney's fees. One of the reasons it bumped up quite a bit is this is a year we have to hire our labor attorney to do negotiations. So that could be, I'm going to say in that $30,000 to $50,000 range, something like that.
So that, I guess what I'm
So comparing it to this current
you're
this
projecting
year,
something that's
we
going
weren't
to
paying the
happen
labor attorney, so
different than going to be affected as the last 4 months would have affected us.
right.
Well, the other area was operations and maintenance, and I was wondering if this is kind of more significant, and I was wondering if there was something specific that we're expecting to happen, and again, operations and maintenance is going to be kind of significant from what we would have spent in the 2015 budget. It's like $344,000, almost $345,000.
One of those in the budget is the maintenance on the dams, which was $200,000 this year, which we just spent $100,000 in December, and we're spending more now. So it's for the year, some of that's going to be made up in these last few months of the $300,000 we're talking about.
All right,
And then we added in another 100,000 for the right-of-way on our transmission.
I mean, our goal is, the budget is a guide of kind of what we see as where we would spend with normal things. There's so many things that can affect.
I understand that. That's why I asked the question. Because those numbers were so drastic, I was concerned that, are we using good numbers? Because if the numbers are just based on the 2015 budget, not on what we're actually spending, and then you kick it up, then you're going to be working with erroneous numbers. If you're just going to add on to the 2015 budget,
It's not
to
so-
make sure
it's not
we
so-
have a good feel that these are expenses that we truly will incur in 2016.
Let's not
my
call it an erroneous budget. Let's, because we're doing the budget 4 or 5 months before the year ends.
Well,
That's my
So,
point.
and you know,
I
in
just want
March
to
I
make
can
sure,
tell you better on what's happened in these last 4 months
I just want to make sure the
than when we
numbers,
did the budget.
like I said, I just want to make sure the numbers are practical and that we're not going to be over padding the budget
No.
just because we assume that something can happen.
But the budget is kind of like a ceiling that I have to spend,
I understand that.
okay? I wish you know, I might come in 5% under budget, which, you know,
But that's okay, and that's my point.
Right.
If you come in 5%, but I wouldn't want us to be coming in like 15%.
no.
are you satisfied with the answer you got?
I don't have to be. I'll have to be.
Any other comment at the moment? Okay, let me summarize this. We have a budget, excuse me, we have a water rate increase that's proposed at 3.25%. We have another one that will be proposed for 2.95%. So what I'd like to do is to have 2 motions put on the floor, so it's officially there. So if someone would give a
I will make
motion
a
of the
motion that we
2.95%.
recommend a budget of 2.95%.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second. Is there entertain a motion for the 3.25%?
So moved.
Would that be a second motion, or would that be?
I want to get them both on there, because, I mean, rather than vote,
Do like the town meeting, do the low number. and the
yeah,
high number.
I mean, vote for one and then the other, I mean,
If he's got a motion and a second, you vote on that.
Yeah.
And if it fails, then somebody can,
we can do that, we can do that.
Okay.
All right, so
And
we
it's
have a
gonna be,
motion on
don't
the
forget, it's
floor,
gonna be 6, 1 from each town.
motion on the floor for 2.95% increase. Is there further discussion?
I'd just like to comment that we're talking roughly $35,000 in a reserve fund.
Yes.
It's not like saying, okay, we won't buy a pickup truck this year. So it's like putting money in the bank to me. So I would probably incline to vote for the higher rate.
Yeah, I
That's
am
just
too.
my position.
I am too, because I think
We
that
could
we
sit,
have always been
here and pick out
conservative.
all kind of things out of the budget. Not that Joel,
No,
as a judge, we could go down the line and say, well, we can eliminate a pickup truck. We could eliminate, that's another 35.
That would be foolish.
I think
You're
that,
right, I agree with you, that that would be a very bad business practice.
but in large measure,
That's my position.
by what people have said, the difference of the 0.3% is really based on public perception, concern for public perception. I personally don't think we have a bad public perception. I personally think that the 3.25% is a reasonable, and we've demonstrated that. And by this presentation, we've demonstrated all the work that's gone into this and the work that's planned for the future. And that's backed up solidly by the bonding that we put in place in order to carry this out, and the management structure that we put in place in order to make sure it happens on time and on schedule and in budget. And so I'm in favor of the
After going
3.25%.
through the experience of some other hearings, the fact that the public's not here, banging on the doors and jumping up and down and screaming and hollering at us, I think it's a vote of confidence
Yes?
for the board.
Is that the number that's correct, though? I just have this looking at my notes. December
You said, I asked it, what would the 3.25% increase mean? And you said about $390,000. Is this correct?
I didn't.
Does that sound correct?
It's 30,000 for every quarter.
I have 300, that was an increase of
I don't
$390,000. Because 0.3% isn't like 36,000.
No, 0.3%.
Right,
It's 36,000.
0.3.
0.3. He's going from
Every
3.25
is
to
$30,000.
2.95.
So I took 30,000 and 1/5 of that, 36, that was the original market.
Okay.
All right,
So if you multiply that by 12, you get 360, by 13, you get 390, it's correct.
okay?
I have one more thing.
Yes, sir.
I think we can do the lower percentage because I really feel that they've done such a great job in reducing costs, and I think it's gonna happen in the future. And I think we'll see our budget come in next year under, so.
Not only do I think it, I make book on it, because of how good they've done, and the dynamics of the aging, retiring workforce. That is where the biggest savings come. That is going to continue for years to come. And that is all due to the good work of management. Having said that, all I wanted to do is consider, and I appreciate the
You ready to vote? I'm sorry, yes.
I just like to make one comment on that, in that if you look deep through the budget, the 3.25%, we really don't feel that's eaten up. You've got to take into account, what you say come in under budget next year. That barely, that almost is what keeps us at that $12 million level. We're not really, if you look at the effect of that, with what we could put into for conservation, and it's offset a bit by inflation for operational costs, that the increase, I don't, it may come out close. I mean, 1% is almost within a margin of error. I mean, overall.
Let me ask you a question. Assume the 3.25. How much do our reserves increase with the 3.25?
I don't know off the top of my head, but
According to that, it was 255,000.
Right.
So it's not a matter of just keeping us at level. It's with the intention, and it's a good business strategy, of increasing reserves.
Right.
And
that's $36,000 to me. If it came out of the reserves, a margin of error in some billing could knock that 36,000 up or down in 1 month in February. Okay.
It's all predicting the future.
So it's
Let's go to the vote, all right? Unless someone's got something new to offer. Okay, so we're going to vote by raise of hands on 2.95%.
Is that the motion, sir?
That's the motion to raise the water rate by 2.95%. All those in favor, please raise your hand. So it's 1, 2 votes. Those opposed? Is defeated. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's defeated. Now entertain a motion for the proposed rate of 3.25%.
So moved.
Okay. Without further discussion, those in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those opposed? 1. Okay. You got that? It is passed. Let's go to the operations and maintenance budget. I'll entertain a motion so we can discuss this, a motion to adopt the operation and maintenance budget of 8,099,819.
So
Second, okay. Discussion. Everybody's seen this over and over again. This reflects the 3.25% that we just passed. Again, Those in favor of this budget, are ready to vote, raise your hand. It is unanimous.
Frank, I stepped out.
I'm sorry, without Frank. It's unanimous from who's here, who voted.
That's fine.
And for the capital, we did the capital budget. Where's the capital budget? Right here. The capital budget is, the bottom line is, we're working on the one that says 2016. That's FY. $920,000. Is that correct number? No.
That's the cash budget.
No, it's $5,764,160. That's the number we want to put in. A motion for that, for the capital budget of $5,764,160.
Second.
Same again. Any discussion? Those in favor, please raise your hand. Again, is unanimous.
Alan should do the overall budget too, because that includes the reserves and the debt service.
Oh, okay, so what number I'm looking at, that's the number of 12, no, that's revenue. What's the overall number you want me to put in here?
Well, that'd be overall revenue, $12,400,000.
98.
I'm sorry, it's, doesn't sound right. What number do you want to put in here for the overall budget?
Yes, that's the $12,498,000.
I'm trying to see what it is.
It's the
Required revenue.
top of the green line.
First page. Oh, the top.
The
Dark green line.
revenues are not budgeted,
Oh, yeah, I got it, okay.
the 12 million.
But that's the overall, but it is
I mean,
actually in our,
You can't vote on a
Can't
projection,
vote on
you can't vote on a projection.
Right. Won't it be the combination of the two that we just voted?
No, we voted on the budgets for expenses and
Yeah.
outlay. But revenue is an uncontrollable.
Right, and we voted on increase. Do we need to vote for?
You can give it a Cheerio.
and you support the well.
Revenues,
Because
revenues,
the reserves are included in there too, so it's, and then, because they're, the reserves and debt service are not included in the operations budget.
Okay,
Right,
let's put
that's-
Joe on the spot. What do we need to vote on here?
Isn't it a combination of the operations and maintenance?
I think
I've already approved the
Yeah.
increase, so
Yeah.
that's the budget already.
Okay,
No, 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 no.
the only thing we didn't vote on is we voted on funding operational expenses,
capital expense.
funding, and funding the debt service, the 3.2, which we really don't vote on that, because we have to pay that.
We've already.
It's not a
approved
budget
it.
item, it's a,
Right.
okay. The reserves are the result of those two things. So
Right.
they're a byproduct of it, so if any of those change, those are going to be automatically, so.
I don't think we need to vote on
It's,
that.
I think it's just the capital budget
And the O&M.
and the operational budget would be,
The
the others are results of,
Right, so it
Maybe
just,
5.762. Actually, that's all that's on the agenda anyway. We
Yeah.
don't vote on anything else anyway.
right. So we're going to go into, now we'll entertain a motion to go into executive session. And this is for the board to plan or discuss the plan compensation of the executive director. For general notice, in the past, we went through a process of performance evaluation and goal setting. Performance evaluation of the past year, or the current year, and goal setting for the next year. And this was based on inputs from all the board members. Bill and I consolidated these inputs, and we met the other day with Pam to do her performance evaluation. We did the same thing for goal setting for the coming year, and we consolidated all the inputs, and we set those goals. I have copies of that information for the board, and our function tonight is to discuss what the compensation change should be, and then we'll come back and deal with the executive director. So we'll probably come out of the executive session and have to take a motion in open session, correct?
If you're gonna vote, yeah.
We're going to vote, yes, that's the idea. And so then that will be the only business that we'll conduct after our executive session. We'll close the meeting after that. So if you want to hang around after that, you can. We'll open the meeting again. But right now, I'm looking for a motion to go into closed session. Bill, and seconded, who was that? Seconded, John, and this is under Rhode Island General Law 4246.5, parentheses 1. We'll take a moment to clear. Thank you all.
Ladies and gentlemen, have a good night.
Good night.